So I call the special meeting of the Highway 281 Task Force of the City of Lincoln to order, and it is 11:03. So this is our second meeting that we've had regarding the Highway Task Force. And as you can see, the agenda is the exact same from last time. So I guess I will start with roll call, which is me, so I'm here. Y'all are all here. Great. Y'all don't mind standing for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance
of the United States of America, which stands one nation, indivisible, with justice.
Thank you. So I don't really have that many announcements. I'd like to thank everybody for attending again. This is going to be another casual workshop type atmosphere, so discussion, and it won't just be me talking. The only announcement that I really have is a couple of weeks ago, I attended the TML, Texas Municipal League Conference. And at that conference, I met an organization, the Integrated Environmental Solutions, and they basically help out with. They have the potential to help us out with the environmental impact part of this task force, and I'm going to reach out to get more information. It was a brief meeting, but at least I have their contact information. They have mine. Just another resource that we can use, and they understand 281 is coming through our town, and they seem to be wanting to help. So exciting. So, that being said, let's move on to new business. Item 1, consideration and discussion on the formation of the outreach and communication plans. And I had emailed this out to everybody, so I hope everybody has had some time to kind of look at it. Do we have anybody have any input on it? I believe one of the things that we were going to change is on section F, the key stakeholder meeting is item 11 for the and 12, we were going to add the other candidates to the state elected and federal elected, because that race has not been completed at this time. And then once the race is over, we'll update it to the current elected officials. Any other comments?
Well, I guess I'd like to make a comment before we start on this. It seems apparent to me now, after looking at the TxDOT website on the relief route, that it's not going to be a relief route. It's going to be Highway 281. And if you want to see Blanco, you will exit off of 281 coming into Blanco. So they're building a new highway, but 4 lanes divided, no length around. So we keep referring to the relief route, and it's not. It's going to be Highway 281. It's going to be the road. And we are going to be an exit. Just the point.
That's it. That's a good point. So, with that being said, the outreach and communication work plan, does everybody seem happy with how it's laid out, or? Yes.
I looked at it. I don't have it with me today, but I think it's pretty good. And you know, I guess it can evolve as time goes on with AP. I do have a communication issue, and to me, we're still early in this thing, and the communications is the key. And I know last time you said basically everything would come through you to go to DOT. And I haven't got a team put together. I haven't done a lot on this, but it seems from an environmental standpoint, there's 2 aspects of this, and that is, what is DOT's process for evaluating a route? Are they going to do are they going to consider all of our issues? to pick the route? Or are they gonna pick the route and then try to resolve the issues? I hope it's former, but it's probably a combination of the two. And I would like to know, are we gonna, if they have let's say they have an environmental team, I don't know how they organize. If they have an environmental team, can our environmental team communicate with them directly, or do we have to go to you and then you go to TxDOT goes back down to their team?
Yes.
So I don't know if you knew it, they have a historian. TxDOT has a historian. I met her at the meeting. We talked a very long time. And they have to legally, now that we've identified, the more stuff we identify environmentally and historically, they have to stop it. Now, they have to meet with the landowners, sisters, for that by law. Because that could be considered rural historic landscaping. By THC, by Texas Historical Commission of State's eyes. And so because it's identified and we have documentation to back that up now, all along the way, even on 32, there's some stuff that the more we can identify all the way around environmentally as well, they have to, the problem she told me, she used to work for Texas Historical Commission, and she said what happens is people don't tell TxDOT, people don't fight this, people do not come forward with all this information. And not that they won't do it anyway, but they have to sit down and negotiate and start working with us by law. And right now, the historical has more teeth in this county than anything else to make some changes. By law.
Well, I guess my question is, like on the environmentals, you got water, you got air, you got sound, you got all these different issues. I don't know what they look at. They look at traditional things, I'm sure, but are they looking at night sky? At light pollution? I don't know. I'll bet you they're not. And if we wanted to look at it, we need to get it before them. And there may be some other issues similar to that. And I would like to know what are the things that they consider. And if we want something else considered, we need to get them thinking about it now. And that's why I'm saying if we could get a little more insight into how they're going to do this, we can work with them.
And I know that they haven't started the environmental scan yet, but I'm sure it'll be coming soon. And at the 281 town hall that TxDOT put on, I talked to Kathy Moore, who's the engineer, and she is open for us to have people communicating with them. That's what they did in Fredericksburg. Basically, they had like a committee. They met frequently with TxDOT to go over the possible relief route. And so that is what we're going to be planning to do in the future.
But again, if there's going to be a relief route, 281 route, whatever you want to call it, I would hope that they look at the things before they select the route, rather than selecting the route and then say, we'll remediate the problems. It's probably a hybrid of a little bit of both. But if they just say that's the shortest distance, that's where we're going to go, and then they try to fix all the problems, we're not going to get the best solution.
Rachel, as you know, and thank you for researching for me, they did not know a week ago or so what the funding sources were. And then identified with you that federal funding is the primary and then state funding. And because of that, there's a lot of steps a lot of hoops they need to go through, especially historically. And I would assume the same with the environmental.
Right.
So if we can sink our teeth into that, their funding source,
right,
that's going to be helpful.
Yes, and I was told it was 80% or 80 federal and 20 state.
Rachel, we had that meeting over at the high school where they laid out those big long nets and let everyone put little stickers and stuff on it to identify anything that was not on the map, like wells or historic walls or that. Do you know if they have analyzed that stuff and added those things to their planning map?
I don't know if they have, but I can definitely find out.
No, but I do know, she came and talked to me after when it was kind of over at the end and said they were in shock of how much historical was all the way from 306 to Blanco, just alone. And they were like, this is we have to look at this. Because I said, and we went from, oh, I had documents because I had the families there that have most of that land, and I introduced them, and we showed documents, we showed pictures, we showed all of that, and she's like going, oh, okay, this puts a whole different aspect on things.
There's another piece of this. There's consideration of the historical and the environmental issues in the selection of the route, but there's also down where you're at, they're in the design phase. They've already started to really do the design. So then it's a matter of how, if they're set on the route, how are they going to remediate? Take sound. We can accept a cookie cutter, we'll put a sound wall up, or maybe they put in trees. There may be alternatives that we need to push for. If they're going to remediate where they come in with their bulldozers, are they going to put in native plants, or are they just going to let it do whatever it wants to do? So there's a lot of things that we may want to propose to them in the design phase that we need to think about ahead of time. Otherwise, we get the cookie cutter.
Is there a way, I'm sure they've got those teams already set up. Is there a way that you can, Rachel, through your connections, find out who those team leaders are? The historic team, the environmental team, whatever other teams are representing here, that we can actually interact, one of our representatives can interact with them.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'll reach out to see what I can find out. Because,
I think Rebecca's the historic person on there,
okay.
and she used to work for THC. She used to be working under, and so she's got those connections with that. She did say that because I'm county historic chair, I will be her contact person for the whole county to deal with city and county because I'm, for that. So, she asked me that way and I said, you have to draw.
Yeah.
So,
Setting up
yeah.
I mean,
But she said that wouldn't be happening right away because they have so much other stuff they have to do yet before they get to that point. But the more we can gather, she just like said, the more we can gather and document pictures, written up, any kind of documentation and proof, that's what they really have to have.
Yeah, the environmental process is likely to probably use federal funds, which is going to trigger a lot of environmental reviews. And that's going to include a lot of typically they'll refine it down and they'll come up with a series of routes, usually at least 3. And one of the options is going to be do nothing. And then they will have multiple opportunities, multiple different distinctive routes, not refined, not down exactly where it's going to go, but kind of conceptual ideas. And then they'll probably have public input to look at the pros and cons of each. So it's going to be a long process. I think the timeline on this is about 5 or 6 years away.
Yes.
So they're pretty early in the process to define funding sources. I'm sure they're looking, but it's not uncommon. But I'm assuming they'll assume it's federal funds, which is going to trigger a lot of environmental review. So I think we'll have a lot of input into this, would be my guess.
What we're hoping for.
Yeah.
Yes, it looks like the public involvement on their original study schedule that we received is 2022 and 2023. So we have a year of public involvement for the expansion project. So I don't believe they have a timeline yet for the other project.
They didn't always answer all the questions I had at the last meeting. For example, I'm still not sure where it's going to start, where it's going to end. One representative said this is set in stone. The other representative says we're still thinking about it. So I don't know if Seymour's garage is going to be the south part and 12th or 14th Street is going to be the north part. So I'm still not sure about that. That might affect how we look at Blanco City, what happens here closer to the square. The other question also is for Chief. We weren't sure exactly where the town city limits were. You said the sign wasn't appropriately placed. I would like to know where the actual city limits are of Blanco.
So the best I can tell from the map is right past Chandler Street where it comes out on 281 on the other side of Peterson's, right in that area. It's the city limits.
That's south and north.
North, it depends on which, if you're on the north or the southbound lane. So from the maps, if you're going northbound where the pipe yard was,
Or KC.
yeah, that's in the city, and that goes further out. There's undeveloped land there on that side. If you're coming on the southbound side, the house where the antique blue truck is, that's actually not in the city. So the city limits are different on the northbound side than the southbound side.
The city limit sign coming from the north is a mile and a half and 13.
Yeah, it's a brushy top right there.
Well,
So yeah, so on the northbound side, the city limits extend that far. So that's kind of normal. On city limits that are on both sides of the street, they're gonna put it where it's at. But
A
as far as
follow-up,
the property owners, no.
follow-up question, in terms of traffic, is there more traffic going northbound through Blanco or more traffic going southbound through Blanco?
Depends on the day. So like, it seems to me, like starting Friday afternoon, northbound traffic is ridiculous. I've seen it back up past Rocking J from the light at 32. I don't see it filled up as much coming southbound, but I think that's because we don't currently have a light at our city limits to really gauge how they're coming through. So my guess would be everybody going northbound on Friday is probably coming back on Sunday, would be my guess. But I think because of light at 32, it blocks that traffic up where we can see it better. I have ordered the trailer that'll do those counts, but it's not gonna be here till, I think January is when we're expected to take delivery of that.
Have you
We'll have
guys,
get some better numbers that way.
have you asked TxDOT to do a study for a light at 13?
We have, requested it, they're still looking into it. Is anybody online have any comments?
I have something.
Okay.
Okay, so I would like, we were talking about, you brought up the fact that 281, it would be 281 basically going back, I think if we could work with TxDOT to find ways to enhance the exit to come into town and either call it business 281 or downtown 281 or something like that, so it still maintains its integrity as to what it is and to draw people into town, but allows people to continue outside of the loop and go around town too. But I'd like to see things so maybe we can work with them to enhance that traffic coming into town, that want to come down and experience way out of town. Because, a lot of times relief routes like us is whatever you call us downtown to kind of drive and die, and I don't want to see that happen. And so the more thought we can put in that ahead of time, the more we can work with TxDOT to get something that is attractive and attracts people into town, the better.
That's a really good idea.
Another thing that I thought about was that if they divert 281 around Blanco, had some maintenance on Main Street. That's no longer 281, we no longer have state.
Still their property. It's their highway. I see
The
it,
highway will go around this house, and this Main Street not gonna be the highway anymore.
but it's still TxDOT. So it'll be, and I think I used Bernie as a comparison last time. That's but so business 87 is kind of what you're talking about through downtown Bernie, and that's still TxDOT. So when they want to do changes on that road, even with the city, it's a TxDOT road. And so I think that's kind of what they did there with business 87, where they made the on-ramp and the off-ramp to kind of grow that tourism downtown. And then the city kind of grew around that, but there's plenty of people getting off there because it's,
I was just kind of curious, we can't keep it's potholes now, 281 dang hours.
Yeah. And with the enhancement of the exit idea, I think that it would be very possible for us to have a, what they call a city appreciation sign, I think it's called, from TxDOT. And we would be able to have the dark sky sign and the scenic city sign, which hopefully people will see those two things and be like, oh, I've got to go check this out now. So that hopefully will help with the enhancement.
It also could be how they configure that, so, how they configure that exit ramp or on ramp, all that. I mean, they can configure it in such a way that it's all maximized just for speed, or they can configure it in such a way that maybe it slows people down and lets them to come into the thing. It would be good to have a conversation.
Well, if it's like the rest of the highway going south, it's divided 4-lane highway, they got lights everywhere.
Right.
You can't get over 60 miles an hour in most places, so I think they'd be the same thing.
Well, yeah, but I assume that the future plans are to put a main highway right down the middle of that, and that those will be access roads, so.
Right. Yeah. I would say they have a
Yeah,
light,
I agree.
light there. Same way they do everywhere.
It just really depends on what, like you said, where on the map are they gonna be? Because if you're in, they're gonna run that main road right to Seymour's and then pick it back up at 12th or 13th. I mean, I don't know where that route is gonna be. I mean, you're already in the city at both ends.
Yeah, and I will ask about the start and end again. I've asked it several times and I keep getting, they're not sure yet. So hopefully by now, they might have picked a start and beginning, but I don't know.
They're talking about this as two different projects,
Yes.
and so are we. Do we deal with them in two different, if they get two different environmental teams, or are they gonna pull these together? Because they're in design phase on the apps, in the county. And if I'm the environmental person, do I need to work with that team and then work with a different team on the study portion of the relief?
TechStyle engineers amaze me all the time, but I'm not sure how you could do one without the other.
Why, but
How do you know where your relief route's gonna start and end if you don't know where your highway's gonna
in the
start?
design phase,
And
that's,
that's what I'm saying.
but they've hired a consultant
I,
for the relief route. Now, is that consultant off in his own little world over there? How much in touch with everybody else? I just want to make sure the communication is as good as it can be for our benefit.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes.
This is Mark Dobbins. I'm new to the committee, so thank you for including me. Specific to the relief route, is there some sort of a economic benefit study that's going to be done on that? And specifically, I wanted to understand, what benefit there'd be for the city as opposed to the people using the relief route. And then also, is it possible, I guess it's possible, to consider, if we do a relief route, making it a toll road?
They won't use it. People won't use it. So some trucking companies won't even allow their trucks to get on toll roads.
So we still have to.
It's still the same price. That's why they're using 281 now,
Right.
because they don't use the toll road over there by 35.
Well, I can tell you here in Houston, there are plenty of trucks on the toll roads. So there may be some that don't allow it, but if the economic incentives are there, they will. So I wouldn't foreclose it just because we think we know how the truck companies are going to behave. To me, if we're going to be looking at this type of expense, it's something we ought to consider.
It probably have to be a regional mobility authority anyway,
Okay.
which I don't know if there's one here or not.
That economic impact part of it, I don't know how many people coming through Lango now on 281 is spending money here. They just don't get you 10 because they can. So,
No.
most of this people actually does spend money here. I don't expect the whole lot. Sorry for damn.
I say we get a lot of business on 281, we're just passing through town.
Yeah.
I've got another question, it kind of goes to the economic development piece. Are there some sweeteners that we could be asking for in this? Like, what if there's gonna be an interchange at the south end of town, what if we have park and ride? So that our citizens wouldn't have to drive all the way to San Antonio. That's gonna take load off the highway, and maybe we get the highway department to put in a parking ride for it. I don't know. Or there may be other things that we could say, we'd like to have this kind of amenity added to the project. It's just more money, but you never, unless you ask, you won't receive.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I mean, this is the time for us to come up with these ideas and to present them to TxDOT. But for the relief route, I don't think any economic study has been done at this point.
Well, and beyond that, I think we're still in the beginning stages of how much the city and or county is going to have to pay for the acquisition of the property versus how much the state will pay. So it's been indicated to me that they're going to take the lot, well, they're going to take the majority of the cost, but we don't really know the breakdown.
I would just urge that as we look at cost benefit analysis, we don't look at just what happens inside the city, but what the alternatives are to the people who are passing through. If a truck company can save 5 or 10 minutes not coming through town, then that may be worth $1 or $2 to them. I have no idea how you would price something like that. I'm sure there's someone who's capable of that, but let's look at the economic benefits of the people who would be using the bypass route as well.
But our toll roads generally, privately owned, private companies build those.
They can be, they don't have to be. I mean, they can be public entities, like the Harris County Toll Road Authority in Houston is a public entity.
I'm confused now. I was under the impression that we were going to take a look at how 281 coming into Blanco would affect Blanco proper, square here. And then the other stuff outside may be more county instead of city. I'm confused because I'm hearing now there is not a relief route. 281 is going to go around Blanco as 281 and not be a relief route, and there'll be an exit going into Blanco. Is that the case now that's on they're talking about?
So right now, TxDOT is planning the expansion from the normal 281 expansion. The relief route is a different project, which in the future, many years from now, it could be the alternate, and then this could become business. But nothing has been set in stone at this point.
It's just how you hook them together at both ends, whether it's exit or whether it's the main direction.
Well, but again, I have some, but to protect the city though, is, like I said last time, he said is, the negotiation for stuff outside the city, but I also think for this group is the negotiation for stuff in the city. Like you said, 281 is still owned by TxDOT. Right. If it's 2 lanes going through town or if it's 8 lanes coming to town. So what is it through the chamber or the residents would like to see on 281 in the city, which I think also then drives, does it become the alternate route or not? Because if you're building it to support business and residential in this area, the trucks are going to want to drive through. They're not going to want to stop at all those traffic lights. They're going to want to go around, even if it costs them a couple of dollars. I mean, I'm not a truck driver, I'm not an engineer, but that's just what I think.
That gets back to my sleep. If the through traffic is going to go around town, then what do we want the existing 281 to look like? Maybe some of the sweeteners are that we want to landscape it, that we want brick crossings, or that, and we want to slow the speed down to 25. I don't know, but maybe we get TxDOT to pay for some beautification or whatever you want to call it.
Tie it with the 281 overlay.
Exactly.
And what is the future that the people of Blanco want for 281 in town?
Right.
And have TxDOT do a bunch of those things to make it happen. It's still their road. So just because they're not widening it doesn't mean that they don't have to do any improvements to it as part of this process.
I'm not an engineer or anything like that, but I know that older places in Europe would divert traffic away because of the vibration and all of that. I'm just wondering if any of these buildings off of the square would suffer from.
They already are.
They already are. Okay. Right. So that needs to be brought up as well for whatever may happen in town is how do you reduce the vibration? How do you reduce the sounds and all of that that can affect foundations and bricks and rocks and stones and however they did put up. I know that trucks make a lot of vibrations. And if they're coming through Blanco proper, then that's something to consider historically. We want to preserve the buildings that are here.
When I was at the railroad, we did a detour, we had to do sound studies. We couldn't just say it's gonna be quiet or it's gonna be, we had to go out and do measurements on the sound. And I would think that that should be done, particularly downtown and then down Twin
Yeah, we've
Cities.
already asked for that.
And then again, DOT ought to pay for that. We shouldn't have to pay for any of that.
It's not the story.
We need to advance technology be applied to this, not just somebody flipping through the book and saying, well, in this situation, this is what we do.
One of the things I talked to the historian about, and one of the text people down there is why, because they're right there at Twin Sisters, you can't really widen it. I mean, unless you do some more damage to the hall, and there's a house there and a cemetery right there. You'd have to go all the way around on properties and everything else to the left, which they can do, but they're gonna take out a lot of historic stuff along the way, which they're finding out quickly. And so we talked, they said, well, what would you propose? And I said, why can't you just widen it? And I said, why can't you go 306? And there's several little county roads that hook on the 32. Right through there. 306 is already widened right through there. And it would be an easy passover to get over there to that. And that's all development through there, starting development and an area. And I said, well, that's something to look at, put it on the map. I did, I put that on the map. I drew it on there. I didn't put sticky notes. I drew it on there. But, it's like they haven't looked at that yet. And there's other possibilities that, so if they could widen there's plenty of room to widen 281 to a point to the blanket without putting a media in between and taking out a lot of historic stuff. And still do the barriers downtown and things like that to enhance downtown. And it can still be used, and the trucks can use that other lanes, the other route around. I think there's other alternatives than just 32. There's just also historic stuff down there, which I will be fighting for. So all the way around Blanco, Texas Historical Commission, actually, when I met with them, said Blanco County could actually be considered, the whole county as Texas historic landscaping. Because it's got so much, no, because of the rich history here.
Absolutely.
The whole county could be declared that. And they would have, that means developers and everybody would have to stop. It doesn't mean they can't do anything. It just means they have to stop and be more considerate and not take down all the rock fences, not take down all the old historic homes. It doesn't, that's what it means. It means people can still ranch. It can mean that stuff. And so they said, we don't know why it hasn't been, because between LBJ, all the Comanche, raids and everything happened here, a lot of the other stuff, the Texas Rangers that lived here. There's a lot of deep, deep, hard history in this town, in this county. And there's a whole bigger picture here that nobody's looked at.
Rachel, in one of the previous meetings, we talked about working with the other cities up and down 281 all the way to I-20. Is that something that you're doing, or is that another group that's going to be doing that coordination?
I've been doing the communication with those other cities at this time.
And so is that ever going to, how will we see that?
Well, I don't really have much. I've pretty much just been keeping them in the know of what is going on here. So when I have information, I send it to y'all, and I also send it to those leaders as well.
That ties right into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the history didn't stop at the county line.
Exactly. I talked to somebody in Hamilton and Hyco. I've talked to both towns historically. And Hamilton's a very strong historic town. They're a little more saved already because they've got some political people that live in that county, and they're already looking at a detour map around. They don't want the people coming through. They're already historic enough and solid to where they have enough tourists. I mean, they're fine. They're going to be okay. And so they've already been working with TxDOT for an alternative route.
And I know Marble Falls is also looking for a relief route and land passes, I believe.
Yes.
So those two I do know are.
Yes.
That's not our problem.
So do relief routes affect the economy of the town? And how so, and how much? They can't depend upon the town.
Right,
For example, sounds like green versus sounds like.
right.
What would happen here if there were a relief route?
That's one of the questions.
We don't exactly have any idea yet about how It seems to me, that people, when they drive 281, that when they go through, get to the north part, they're stop, they got the blank open.
They will if it's advertised right.
Well, marketing,
By sneaking your stuff.
I don't know if,
It's nice.
I mean, this town on the weekend, any weekend.
It's crazy. It's insane.
It is crazy packed. And so what I don't know is, probably a business question is Blanco the destination or is Blanco a stop off at 281? I imagine there's some of each, but how much
Yes.
lead is there from if people want to just drive under?
Well, on market days, I can tell you, people say, oh, I'm not from here, I just stopped.
Yeah, well,
I just stopped.
Yeah.
Well, so it wasn't a destination.
But I mean, even Redbud, I've been, Redbud on the weekend and, it's gonna be an hour waiting for your food. And that's not people from Blanco.
I want to say, we look at it, we will a lot of times have 50–60% of the people in our restaurant are just driving through. Now, I do think Blanco as a town has completely changed over the past 4 or 5 years, where it used to be a place where people drive through, and we've seen a huge shift to people coming here for the weekends.
Right.
And that's going to keep happening. We're going to see more and more of it, but I do think from an economic standpoint, we do need to focus on what brings people to town.
Correct.
Because you have a place like Green that does really well because they provide these great draws that people want to go and do,
Yes.
versus you have some other towns that put in bypasses that didn't focus on the economic development piece, and people drive around it and never go.
Correct.
So there's two different focal points, it's like, I agree, we're gonna need a way to get around town because I don't wanna have a 30-minute drive to work. But at the same point, we've gotta focus on bringing the people here to
Correct.
maintain the economic development that we've been seeing without having to speak all these.
I guess that was my point on the development of 281 in town, is to highlight those feature things that is
Yes.
where when you're coming down 281, what's on the square. It's not just, oh, I think I passed. But as you go through, if you get a green light, Redbud's there. Unless you're, coming here for that.
You know, and
I think that's part of it.
I'm on board with what John's saying over there too. Wherever that off ramp is, or where there's historic district signs or whatever it is, it needs to be grabbed their attention, so it's gonna bring them in. And then the other thing I know that we're trying to do right now is increase historic tourism. And the chamber is doing an amazing job right now with all the different festivals, which is bringing people in. But I wrote a letter to, and I'll report on it later, but to a gentleman, and I just started identifying historical things around here. I was kind of blown away, like Janelle, he said, oh my gosh, if we can bring that to the whole world.
Yes.
You wanna see Texas? Come to Blanco.
We used to
Historic
have
Blanco.
we went up into that trifold that we had.
We're gonna get it
That
rebranded.
rocking.
Yeah, they're working on it. We're trying to get some more stuff added to it. I'm working with them.
Cause that was so popular.
Yeah,
That's
Sure
one
works.
more reason.
Yeah.
I think we have established ourselves, especially in the past 8–10 years, more of a destination. That's
Well,
thanks
that's
to
not
many
what sisters had
things.
advertised. We're a destination hall.
Yeah.
People don't just drive off to 81 and stop at
Oh,
at
what's
8
going
o'clock
on?
at night, you gotta plan it and go.
Right.
But you have to advertise that way. You have to target those people. And with social media and with advertising, it's Big Green, which was nothing. It was shut down for years and years and years and years. And so that's why we try to work with the city, is because Twin Sisters, because we've got to work together to pull people in this county to work and do county-wide things. There's so many more ideas, that we haven't tapped into yet, because those of us only have so much time. But there's a lot of things that can enhance it very easily, and you've got some great ideas for just stopping, slowing people down, but it can be a great destination. And like the THC, Texas Historical Commission, just over to make this a historical.
Oh, I see. I thought you wanted THC to make this.
No.
Yeah, I think that's important. I know we talked about earlier how we're focused mainly on the city, but we are, and we will continue to focus on the city. But it is important to be communicating with outside the county, because we're we're a large county, but a small population, and we all need to work together.
Just a comment, following from John's idea about signage. You go down the road, and a lot of times you'll see the green signs telling you where you're going to go, what's coming. Then you'll see a brown sign. The brown sign is usually a historic, something to look at.
Yep.
So maybe we could ask Tech Stop to that, whatever they do, have a historic blanket exit here, around.
That's what they do in green, I think.
We want to do those gateway signs as well, and that will be determined once we know what we're doing, but big, welcome to historic Blanco.
Stone.
Yeah.
Stone gateway.
Stone, big monument signs.
It's just local material. You should make it local.
Yes, absolutely.
It's architecture and history, all
It
that, local. But the other good stuff that I use is damn cedars. You can't use that wood too to make any sign.
We could build a whole new town.
We got a ball
There's something also that this is maybe, out of the question, but perhaps it has a little bit to do with everything we discussed. And if there are going to be any major construction things that take place in Plano prior to 281 opening, you guys are going to have the world come here in April 8th, 2021.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have perhaps half the world come here October, 1 year from now for the other eclipse. And that apparently is gonna be super overwhelming for the communities. If you're going to do any kind of construction or renovation at those times, you might want to offset it a week, not do it that week, because it's gonna be a headache for everyone, I think. And there's, we're gonna enjoy, there's something advertised there, commercial establishments, you need to start preparing for that and getting people to understand Blanco as the destination. So I all the eclipse last long.
Oh, well,
By
just,
30 seconds.
yeah, so
30 seconds.
the, Blanco County Eclipse Task Force, I'm actually the coordinator for that. And so we have recently started doing blasts about, hey, we have a year until the first one. And we were able to get like little postcards to start advertising it. So the advertisement had started for that. And luckily, this project won't start until the 2027. So we should be good, but it's a good idea to make sure that we don't have any local big projects going on to not congest it even more.
Well, piggyback on that too, you could use this as an opportunity to promote the city as more of a destination. All these visitors are coming in, so come back and visit again. So,
You know, and also keep in mind that, you know, all these people coming in might have, just a one free week. Anybody who wanted to rent out a room. You know, wouldn't have to get a permit, wouldn't have to, you know, not have a B&B permit type thing, but yeah, if got a room, yeah, rent it out, let people make a little money off of it.
Those are all things that we are
But that's not everyone.
working on, yes, in the Eclipse Task Force.
The other thing also is, again, perhaps looking at things proactively instead of reacting to things as how they may happen, but thinking first ahead, before 281 is even built or whatever, to start thinking here in town, what is it that we can do if there's gonna be this relief route? What is it we can do to make the streets for the buildings, historical buildings better? What is it we can do to slow down traffic? What is it, I would love to see bike lanes in Blanco. If the TxDOT wants to pay for bike lanes, that makes a city very touristy, makes a city pleasant. I'm going to suggest that the Buggy Bar does buggy rides downtown Blanco at nighttime, just like they do in San Antonio, and go up and down Main Street in the historical areas.
They do at certain times of year.
Okay, cool.
Just to speak to what he just said, the 281 overlay is absolutely looking at just that bike lanes. If we can reclaim, that is Main Street, 281. On the map is called Main Street. If we can reclaim some of that because of the alternative route or whatever you call it, they are looking at ways to slow traffic down, to make it more appealing. Streetscape is right there now, sign face, to the architect, to start making it look like a historic town with planners and lamps and signs So that's already in process, thank goodness. So just to put your mind a little bit at ease.
It looks like over there across the square, it's real narrow and there's not much room between the courthouse and the businesses that are.
Yeah, but they used to park on both sides of the road there.
Sure did.
Yeah, parking
That
spots.
wasn't that long ago.
And the sidewalk was twice the size.
So I'm wondering how do we make downtown Blanco more pedestrian friendly, also in the bigger scheme of things in 281.
So we,
Relief route or no relief route, just using text dot funds since they are gonna owe you.
So our,
Just 2 lanes through downtown.
That's the way it was. It looked like Frankfurt, but only 2 lanes. That's what it was. It's how they park on both sides. It was the same way right over here.
and we do have another organization in town called Blanco Wheels and Feet, and they are very active trying to get the bike lane, just have paths and trails and stuff more incorporated into the city.
Well, from what I understand, the textile will lease their easement back to Blanco. So Blanco can get control of the easement going through the textile owns and do something with it. You know, they do that.
If I can comment as a cyclist too, I would tell you that no one's going to want to ride on the shoulder of 281, right? And maybe I'm completely missing the point, but to the extent, I mean, if you go up like into Colorado, you go through Breckenridge and places like that, they've just done a wonderful job with their bike lanes, but you've got to create separation from the traffic. And but they've created where you can just go from town to town. I mean, you could conceivably have a bike route that goes to Johnson City. I don't know if the easements would allow it, but you know, that's the sort of thing that would draw a different kind of crowd.
It's something that we could definitely look into.
TxDOT has a lot of funding that's for cities as well, but it's not all, only on the system. You know, for bike routes, they can make improvements to schools.
I think we're gonna have 1,500 bicyclists here on Saturday.
Yeah. Cyclists are ready to come out here, with no bike lane, so.
Real L's bike ride is
Yeah.
on Saturday.
Yes.
Run also.
This Saturday.
Yeah.
This Saturday.
Real L's doing a 5-kilometer run first weekend of December, I think.
Yes.
Well,
They do, yeah, we do that. That's through the state park,
Well, come around the back.
but the ride is out.
Yeah. The bikes will be.
Yeah, one night, 100 miles. That, I think it is.
As somebody said at this meeting that TxDOT had, why don't we do the relief route? I don't know what's behind it, whatever, but apparently there's historical places behind it.
All through. We haven't even got to that part of the county yet, documenting, but yeah, we're talking, so this is a map UTSA did for me. For Twin Sisters area alone, up toward Blanco South. See all those little dots? That's all historical buildings and historical things there. They're all documented. This goes all the way to, I got it up here to Blanco, for the state park, and in the state park, the little creek there, and you know about that, because you sent me that, the Coke Springs, that was Cherokee Trail. That's documented in the state of Texas.
That's a headline.
And so you got some big stuff here. This is just one area, people. This is, and so I'm trying to get some maps done of each area of Blanco area. If it's the city of Blanco, on 281, 32, because there's a, from Fisher to Blanco, that was a stagecoach run on 32. There's still some tracks on one of the properties right there. Yes.
And we're trying to identify the stagecoach stops right now.
Yes, that's what we're working on right now.
And the folks that did this, William Dupont is professor of
Yes.
heritage preservation. And he and his class did that. We are still in communication with him and others. A historic architect who is doing streetscape out of UTSA. So we're really working this.
Professor DuPont, William
William
DuPont.
DuPont.
He's at UTSA, they don't have funding right now. He's very worried about Blanco because it's very hard, as it from being so involved in all of this. But if we could find any other colleges or high school, somebody to do maps, like Pittsburgh needs to have one done. That was a historic area. Different parts of Blanco, different parts of the county. This would reach out, Sandy, Down Mountain, all of that. it would reach out, we could start collecting this information all the way through. And it's a visual for people to actually see. Y'all go, oh, because it's a visual. You get to see this now. And this is what I sent this to TechStop. I sent this to Chip Roy's office and Senator Campbell's office, had this in the list. And Senator Chip Roy's office went, okay, that helps a lot.
Could you send that to me?
Do you know where the hanging tree is?
I know what property it's on. I've not seen it. She's very protective of it.
She doesn't want anybody, doesn't want anybody.
But it's still there.
Okay. that's fine.
Supposedly that one out in, onto the valley is one.
Well, there's several because that's a whole other part of history. It's a whole other can of worms we get into. But this is the timeline they did of so it's called kind of Blanco County. And they got a real synopsis. It started out with in the 1600s, and it goes all quick all the way through. I'll just pass it around and go and look at it. But it's something that Texas Historical, they all want to see this. Our senators and stuff, they're going like, okay, this makes sense now. This is starting to make sense to them. And so this is why I want to, I'm trying to, it's a visual that people can start seeing.
Would you be able to send those to me so I can
Yes.
send out to
Yes.
everybody here?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Is there any more discussion on this?
Yes.
Okay.
So can I ask you?
Yes.
The purpose of generating sites is to refine the site to any alternate routes, to be able to work around, not to kill the project.
No, we can't. I mean, I know, we're dealing with, we get it. I mean, yes, if I had my way, I would say, no, can't do that, stay out, but that's not realistic. So we have to be realistic, but if we take this to them and say, these are important, this is why it's important, and we stand our ground in those and say, work with us, this is what we have. What can you, it's a lot. And that's why when I said, why go 306 and just widen and make 281 better and safer, I'm not against that.
Sure.
I'm not against whatsoever, but I said, you need to stop before you do anything and look what we're bringing to you.
Okay, so I think we are gonna move on to the committees, and last time we had some volunteers step up to chair these committees, but I just want to review it with everybody. If I can get to it. What we talked about last time was to have the subcommittees be the safety, economic, historic, environmental, engineering, and media. So what I'd like us to talk about today, and I'll keep that up there for us. Is to start putting people in the subcommittees. I know we have our chairs, people have volunteered, but we also need to start, all of the rest of us need to start trying to figure out which committee we would like to be on. So we don't have to make any decisions today, but these are the committees that we've discussed, and I've changed. It used to be business and tourism, and we changed it to economic. So.
Is this for the 281 expansion or the bypass or both?
It's for both, because I feel like we've been discussing both.
Yeah.
I know at the town hall that TechStop put on, they were saying that they weren't even gonna start the relief route until after the expansion project was completed. But now they are reassessing that after all of the comments and the push from the city to start it now. Let's work on them together. So that's that.
That's a huge step, by the way. They came in just saying, we'll look at it after, and now they're saying, oh, okay.
I think
That's huge.
I think it was huge that so many people showed up to that meeting, and we're very thankful for all those that did, because every single person I talked to that night that worked for TechStop, they were like, wow,
Yeah, same.
wow.
Yeah.
Like,
it
we
was.
can't-
Yeah, guys. Senator, Chip Roy's office was there. I don't know if you knew that. They were there, and they would talk to TechStop over there that night. I watched her to see.
Claire was there.
Yes, she was there.
She was there.
She was there too. So we got their attention.
Yes. But if we don't have any thing to say about the subcommittees,
Should we just recruit?
yes, I think that would be best. And I'd like to start having the subcommittees, start having their meetings as well. I think we'll continue for now to have this big group once a month. Does Monday at 11 work for people?
Just unless something changes.
For the most part, is that
Are you looking for volunteers for these committees?
yes, if you'd like to volunteer for a specific committee, that'd be great.
You can put me down for the economic committee if that's okay.
Okay, I will do that.
We have contact information, committee chair. So that we say, hey, yeah, I don't know, talk to somebody.
The committee chairs that are here, is that okay if I give out your information?
Yep.
It's all over the website.
Okay. Then yes, I can send out an email with the chairs that have volunteered and their contact information, and then we can go from there. Is there anything else?
I just ask anybody if you know historical stuff or have ideas or wondering, please let me know so I can get it documented. I'm trying to
Send me all
really,
my pictures of wells and sisters.
that'd be great because that's all important. I mean, all of that stuff, you wouldn't think, but all of that it's part of our heritage, it's part of the history here. And so I'm really trying to pull it throughout the county, working on this end first and then heading towards Alcea, where I get contact with some of them.
What do you want on it? If there's a picture, you want a picture?
I want, and we're gonna get us.
Location
And
wise.
let the people know, I'm not coming on their property to make problems. I just want it documented, so as we can prove, would they rather have TechStop come through their property, or would we rather have this documented for the future development down the road, that we're trying to protect this county? And that's where I'm coming from with that. I don't want to go, as a landowner, I don't want people just chomping on the ribbons, there's something historical there, but I want it protected.
Any other comments before we close out?
So do you want people to choose a committee to work on them right now or send you an email or?
If you have an idea of what you want to volunteer for, then you can let me know now, or we can visit after this meeting. So, but I will be sending out the chair's information to everybody, so you have a little time to figure out. Okay, well, at 12:02, we are adjourned.